put these pieces together in a new way? You know, what if I just rip them apart and put them together in a new way? And explore different shapes within that, because everything, so much in the art world is square. I'm now in my phase, I call it the fuck the square phase. Fuck the square. Let's go and explore different shapes.
My name is Annika Rhea, and I am an interdisciplinary artist, primarily known for my performance painting, or otherwise known as dance painting, immersive action painting. I am a visual artist and a performance artist, and I combine the two into a technique that I call body medium.
So this one is one of my favorite newer pieces. It was my first real exploration of painting on aerial straps. So I'm suspended from the ceiling there, the ones that are hanging right there. So I've been training aerial straps for about a year and a half to get the strength, and so I can integrate the grace and beauty that I can, bring to the world through the performance, but also have the canvas look compositionally sound and enjoyable. And this is my first experiment with really focusing on painting with just the aerial straps, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I love the colors. I actually poured the paint directly on it. I have a film. This was filmed as well, and so these swirls are actually my, going through the tote, doing like turns on the paint, but I couldn't slip because I was suspended. And one of the famous action painters, Kazuo Shiraga, used to hang from ropes when he painted. And so there's this inspiration of, the Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner mixed with Kazuo Shiraga to create this kind of work where I'm suspended and I can, so it's less of, there's more white space, which is nice. And I can create this movement with, by being suspended. So I'm excited about this piece. The thing that has been inspiring me, quite honestly, the most right now is everything that I'm reading in this space from neuroscientists and coaches about self-development and manifestation and moving through fears and limiting beliefs and how to get from point A to point B, because I believe this is applicable to everyone, no matter what walk of life you're from. That if you have a dream, if you have an idea of something that you want to be, how do you get there? So I'm starting to explore these questions in my work because I'm also a creativity coach for artists. And so these questions of, okay, how do we get from point A to point B? How do I achieve my dream? What do I have to get? What do I have to do? How can I create the path? So my next exhibit and a performance, my next exhibit is called Fearless. And it really asks these questions of, what would you do if you were not afraid to be judged? Or what would you do if you were not afraid to be seen all the way? What would you put on a canvas and stand confidently next to? And so my next exhibit is going to integrate words. So I'm really inspired by inspiring, honestly, right now. And also this piece Journey, which is my main stage performance painting production. It's about the journey of taking an idea that happens in the mind and bringing it to life, and the emotional range. Not all of it's pretty. A lot of it sucks. There's parts of that journey that you want to quit. And the show really speaks about, okay, well, if you when you're at your lowest point in that journey, whether it's in the creative process or in life or in your entrepreneurial process, that lowest point is so important, because if you can push through that, then you can reach one of the most high points that you couldn't have reached before, because there's this string of lessons along the way. And so, yeah, so that's what has been driving my work right now, is I'm really inspired by people who inspire people. And I want to be one of those people. So I'm integrating moments of like self-development and that kind of, premise into my work. What I've done recently is I've taken the large-scale abstract paintings that I make through performance, and then I've been breaking them down into smaller parts, smaller pieces, and stretching them in smaller works, and then fastening them together so they create these three-dimensional structural pieces that have kind of an architecture, a different kind of architecture to them, and utilize like different geometric shapes in an abstract way, which I'm really excited about, because I'm excited to move away from the square and do something a little more daring. And this is, so this series I'm working with circles. So this particular canvas was made actually, this was one big canvas. It was a gradient, and it was made for News Channel 1 on their, they featured me on the news making this painting. So this one's fun. And this was my first experiment with taking a piece, stretching it in different shapes, and then fastening it together so it's hung as one large piece. When I created Body Medium, it combined all of my passions. My passion for performance, my passion for dance, music, painting, production, film, fashion, all in one. And it's more than just what meets the eye, because the underlying premise that drives my work is about flow. And growing up as a classically trained dancer, where I was in a ballet company by the time I was 11, I was in 3 different companies traveling and performing by the time I was 16, everything was very rigid, and I was always told what to do. So this goes back to the dance behind these paintings. So my background as a dancer was very strict, very rigid, and I didn't have a lot of freedom unless I choreographed, which I loved. So moving on, later on in life, I went to college for dance, and I found myself being quite plagued by perfectionism and body dysmorphia and low self-worth, things that the dance world had given me over time, because you have to look a certain way. You have to have your head and your hand in the same way as the person next to you, and your leg has to be a certain height, and you have to do a certain amount of turns at the same time, synchronized with the other people. And year after year, after going through that journey, it really, I felt like it stifled a lot of this creativity and this authenticity that I knew that I had, and it wasn't allowed to breathe. And so later on, being a dance lover, I had left the traditional dance world after college because I didn't want to join a company. I didn't want to be a pawn for someone else's work. But I left dance. So I knew that the only way that I could heal myself from dance, the traumas that dance had given me, was through dance, but a different kind of dance. So then I found ecstatic dance. And it was the first time in my body that I felt free. And it was such an incredibly fulfilling experience to feel with no constraints, just absolutely free in my body, to explore my body moving through space in a different way, in a way that I wasn't instructed to do, but in the way that felt authentic to my creative spirit. So then moving forwards, as a painter, I'm a lifelong painter as well. I started exhibiting my movement-based abstract paintings 11 years ago. I started to combine the two with this underlying premise of flow, of freedom in the moment, of authenticity, of bravery. And these are the values, driving values of my work. So every time I reach the canvas, I am free and I am in flow, because it's not about me. It's about the art. It is about the moment. It is about finding freedom in the moment and utilizing my mastery of dance and it combined with my ability to creatively express myself in the moment. And that's where I find flow. So what does it mean to me? My work stands for freedom, for flow, for authenticity, and for bravery. And each time that I make a painting, I heal a little bit more of myself. And it's about energy, the movement of energy. And I embed that energy, that healing energy, that positive energy into these paintings. And then they get to live on in a new way, because dance is fleeting. It happens and then it's gone. And in this way, I created body medium. So there is an imprint of the moment that can then live on. So, talking about the three-dimensional structural element of the art that I'm interested in, when I perform, I'll wear bodysuits to act as an extension of the canvas, for my body to actually act as a living, breathing part of the art piece. And when I paint, after I complete a painting, this is what I'll look like. And the more that I did it, people were very interested in the bodysuits. Typically, I exhibit the bodysuit with the piece, and it will be it's part of the installation. It's the video and it's the piece and the bodysuit. But now I'm working on creating a clothing line that features this kind of work. And I'm really excited. I'm getting some good traction. Nothing has been released yet. I do have a couple pieces on Etsy that are part of the Abundance series, the Gold Drip series. I don't have any original body medium suits on there because I'm going through the process of figuring out if I put the originals up or if I get them 3D scanned so they can be printed and replicated in a small batch. But because if I sell these suits, then they're gone. But these are some of my favorites. I love this one. I actually wear this one out all the time. This is great. And the cool thing is they are reversible. So sometimes I wear this to the front and then have like a V-neck situation. So the next wave is getting into painted clothing. So I'm now building men's jackets with the premise of the gold drip. And the gold drip, the significance is about abundance. And it's essentially like the universe leaking abundance down onto your shoulder. So that's the thing about the gold drip. And then a lot of these are from performances. Like this one was from a commission that I did in Costa Rica on the beach. The piece isn't stretched, it's rolled up right now. Yeah, there's some beautiful memories in here. This is from a commission that I did in New Orleans with a live musician who played the saxophone. That was really great. And then I have other just custom painted works. This one is a V-neck. So I'm working on, integrating the premise of my painting, which is flow, what my work stands for, and integrating it into wearable art. So there are two kinds of creativity. There's passive creativity and there's active creativity. And it's interesting, as a very hyper-ambitious New York-based artist, the passive creativity part can sometimes scare me because I'm not doing the things, but it's so important. And as I mature as an artist, I embrace these moments of when things are quiet, because that is when there's something really interesting happens, where in the back of your brain, you're thinking, you're taking in, you're rewiring different, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and you're allowing yourself space to breathe and space to hopefully go out in nature. And that space that's created is essentially a container for newness, inspiration to come in. When I was a younger artist, I would see that space and I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing happening. I have to pack it with all of these things right away because I didn't understand the value of passive creativity, meaning like allowing the space for the inspiration to come. And I went through a short period of that this last couple of months, and I came out of it with this new series of three-dimensional sculptural abstract artworks that I don't think I would have came about otherwise if I didn't have a moment to breathe and to strategize and to allow the creative spirit or whatever you believe in, allow that to kind of flow through me. So, and then active creativity is the doing of the things. So that's the difference. So one of the other series that I presented was the Immerse series, where I took the photos of the overhead view of the canvas in the bodysuit on the canvas after it was created. And I have a series of this. This is actually the piece Buena Vista that was made on the beach in Costa Rica. So I have that. I have this one over here, which this one's called Forward Motion. And this is a shot that has been in several magazines. And this piece I created. It was one of the very first pieces that I did live for a solo exhibit, and it was called Awakening. And I collaborated with 3 incredible musicians, and the money for the piece, I had a collector buy the piece, and the money went to the Ramahort Mann Foundation, which is an arts-based New York City charity that gives money to emerging artists and also cancer patients. And then lastly, this one over here, I love this one. This one was from the music video. This is the bodysuit and painting that was created. And I call this passion and expansion. And this is kind of what it feels like to be an artist. When you're in the expansion process, I always think of it, the creativity comes in it and it explodes. There's this explosive moment. And in the expansion process, you have to, whether it's in the universe or your muscles or your mind, there's this process of little tears, It's painful to expand, but then you settle into that expansion, and it's necessary for growth. So this is the moment of expansion, kind of frozen in time. So this piece, it's called Alchemy, and it's about kind of the rising magic of manifestation and the golden wisps. If you put your intentions out there, it's a representative of that process. And this is one of my favorite pieces that I've ever made. I really love it. It went to Art Basel, and it was shown at Lowe's Hotel during Art Basel Week in 2001. And I actually got my biggest commission off of this piece. They asked me to make a 60-foot long version of this piece. So I didn't sell the piece, but yeah, that's going to be a really beautiful project. I'm excited to create that. What does art mean to me? Art is a pure form of expression. Art is channeled through different people. So I believe it comes through us and then is projected through the lens of everything that we are, our entire essence, everything that we've been through. I mean, we are a product of our past, who we were surrounded with, where we were born, what we were encouraged to do. So we each are walking around with this different, unique lens. No one has the same one. And I find that so interesting. So when people create art through that lens, it's a communication. It's a way of communicating in a creative way. And I think that, art pushes along culture. Art creates, makes people, augments reality. It makes people think in a different way. It questions culture. It adds to the fabric of culture. But art is really a pure form of creative expression.